Welcome to Calm Down with James Eade, and I'm James Eade. And you're probably wondering why I wanted to have a show called Calm Down. It's because I've had a lot of anxiety in my life, and I've gotten agitated, and I've learned some tools to help me calm down. But there's another reason I want you to watch this show, and that's because I'm trying to sell this book. It's called Freedom, and it's the story of how I got sober and dealt with my addiction. So some of the segments on this show are going to be dealing with recovery. And recovery is going to be part of the thing about calming down. Because agitated and anxious never made good decisions for me. I never made good decisions when I was feeling that way. And calming myself down, taking a deep breath, calming myself down allowed me to make better decisions. And the better decisions led to better outcomes in my life. And I wanted to say that I'm coming live from Edge Studio in San Francisco, and the reports of San Francisco's demise have been greatly exaggerated. It's doing fine. We're doing fine here in Northern California. But I have a senior correspondent that's online now from Southern California. You know, Southern California and Northern California have trouble getting along sometimes. But my senior correspondent is going to come on and tell me something that may agitate me, may agitate him. But we're going to show you how to deal with it if something like that happens. I have no idea what he's going to tell me, but I would like to introduce my senior correspondent, Rick Rosner.
All right, so I made a list of things that piss me off, and number one on the list is companies and charities who exploit people who are losing their shit. So probably close to 20% of Americans are seniors, 65 years and older, and old people, especially, people 70s, 80s, 90s. Well, first of all, old people have all the money in America. People over 45 have 94% of the privately held assets. So old people are rich targets. And, somebody who's 78 or 82 and losing their shit is a target. They went after my mother-in-law, sold her $20,000 worth of windows she didn't need.
Wow.
Stop. Somebody's calling me. I don't need that either. They went after my mother-in-law's brother. They sold him fucking stop. What the fuck? All right. They sold him
Rick,
$20,000 worth of, they pulled all his teeth and replaced them with, those screw-in dentures 3 weeks before he died. Somebody talked these people who were, he was half demented, and they ripped him off. And, my mother-in-law, who was beginning to lose it, she got all these charity letters, and she would just send them. What the?
My father-in-law did that too.
Stop fucking calling! Damn it!
My father-in-law wrote checks, small checks, but he wrote a bunch of checks just because people wrote to him. It was something that really annoyed us.
$5 or $10 in the, and Fox News does this. Fox News is very dumbed down, very pretty women in tight dresses, like manly men with beefy men with big square heads, clear messaging, and a lot of that messaging being bullshit. And also, you can be under 65 and be dumb too. But I hate businesses who exploit people who are stupid. Whether it's
prey on them. They prey on them, Rick, and it's a shame. And what can we do about that?
You can keep an eye on your people. We stopped the window purchase because my wife kept a close eye on her mom, and and we had to take over more and more of her financial affairs,
right?
As she became less competent. Then she got COVID, and that aged her brain another decade within so you just have to keep an eye on people. In the future, we're going to have little AI like concierges, butlers built into our phones that are like, do you really want to do that? Oh, by the way, that show you watched was full of lies.
Yeah. Well, one of the things Yeah, I'll just tell you that's agitating me is we're in an election now, and I think the United States deserves a better choice than an old aging Biden and a convicted felon as our choices. But that's what we have. And but what about the people that are supporting Donald Trump? He got convicted for 34 felonies. His Trump University was, it's closed and it
So
was fined.
that makes me crazy. I lost since 2016. You can see I'm pretty skinny. I lost 20 pounds because every time Trump said or did something crazy, I'd get diarrhea. I can't. I might have a
Can
harder
we say
time
diarrhea on the
absorbing.
show, Paul?
You can now.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a problem probably a lot of people would like to have that I can't gain weight.
Yes.
But he gets my bowels in an uproar.
Okay, so what are we going to do when something like the image of Trump comes on the TV screen and you're going to get upset? Now that you know this beforehand, is there a tool or technique? I can share you one that I use that will help you calm down.
One tool is my wife. Trump comes on and she laughs like that, not a happy laugh, but like that crazy laugh, like, and then she turns the channel.
Turns the channel. Okay, so, change your environment. Whatever environment you're in that's stressing you out, if you can, change your environment. Turn the channel. And if you're listening to something you don't like, on the radio, if people still listen to the radio, turn the dial. So there are ways that you can take the element of whatever is stressing you out of your life. But what if you can't, Rick? What if it's right in front of you and you can't avoid it? Is there still a way that you can deal with calming yourself down? I'll share mine.
I go to the gym quite a bit.
Okay.
Or, another thing we probably shouldn't mention on the show, but it works for me is I jerk off.
Oh, well, diarrhea and jerking off. Okay.
I mean, it's not a great way to live, but
the bar has been lowered a little bit, Rick, but you are a senior correspondent, so we give you a lot of slack on this show. The other thing I would say for me is being able to take a deep breath, because I find that the mind can relax the body and the body can relax the mind. And sometimes when I take a deep breath, I realize I'm back in the moment. And I don't stress out about what's in the past or what's in the future. I'm just fully present. And when I can be fully present, I can be calm, cool, and collected. And then someone like you were talking about Trump coming on the television or something like that, then I feel kind of sorry for the guy. He's actually kind of miserable. He wakes up at 3 a.m. and tweets lousy, hateful messages. That's not a happy man. So, I can get some sort of compassion for him now. The damage he's done to the country and the danger that he might put the country in if reelected, that's a different story. But for me...
Yeah, that's what I mean, that's what I worry about. But I have another thing I do. I do fussy little art.
Ah.
I used to make fun of people who go to Michael's craft supplies because they must have like other things in their lives that have failed them, that they've had to turn to scrapbooking. But I've turned into one of those crafty people.
Why not?
I do little teeny mosaics, or I buy mosaics. There are things called micro mosaics, which are tiny bits of jewelry made out of like millimeter wide slivers of glass.
Excellent.
And I'll buy ones that have suffered damage because they're cheaper, and I'll restore them. And I'm using tweezers and
yeah, you got to be calm to use tweezers, Rick.
Yeah, so to put these little pieces back in place. And I've got the TV going in the background, but I'm not hearing it as much as if I were sitting there concentrating.
Yes, good.
Actually, I just play C-SPAN. I call it white noise.
Ah.
For multiple reasons, but we'll let that go.
That can be that can get you to struggle with boredom. But white noise is a good way to look at it. See, it's all in your perspective. You can calm yourself down in a variety of ways. Well, Rick, we're running out of time, and I really want to say thank you for joining the show. And we're going to be in touch with you again. And I want to hear more about your artwork. I want to hear more about the different types of things that you can do to calm yourself down.
Yeah, I
And-
can show you some of the pieces. They're kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much again.
Where can we find your art? If people were watching today, watching the James Eade show, calm down.
When I finish a piece, I give it to my wife, and then she puts it on her Insta. And so I guess you could look at my wife's Insta, which is micro, just the word micro, then underscore, then niceties. NICETIES.
Okay.
And if you
Awesome.
misspell it, you'll get micro bikinis, which is also good to look at.
Well, yeah, it depends on your taste, but it's one of those things that if you're going to make a mistake, that sounds like a good mistake to make. But maybe she's going to get some more followers out of this, because people would be interested in. This is the artwork that calms Rick Rosner down. Who would have thunk it?
And it's somebody else's artwork that I'm just restoring. So
Yes.
it's not-
Okay. All right. Right. Well.
All right. So I'll talk to you next time.
Okay, Rick. Thanks again. Appreciate
Sure.
you. All right, that was Rick Rosner, our senior correspondent, with giving us the news of the day. And
Recording stop.
Oops, pardon me. That was a technical difficulty. I blame my producer. And we have to, talk about what are the things that agitate us in the news, on the television. What are the things that get us out of our comfort zone? And what I have learned is that it's not so much the experience that you have, it's how you react to the experience. Now, if I say something, say I'm not a Donald Trump fan, and that might irritate someone listening, that might really make them angry. But the thing is, that anger only hurts them. If they can calm down, just realize it's one man's opinion. You don't have to be upset by what other people say. It's the United States of America, but I'm thinking I'm living in the divided states of America, where we just don't get along. And we don't get along because we don't listen to one another. Listening to one another is one of the ways that we can find community, find people that share our thinking, and also find people that disagree with our thinking. And it's okay to disagree, because one of the things you can do is change your mind. We spend so much time trying to change other people's minds, but we're not taught how to change our own mind. And it's a gift that keeps on giving. If you can just relax and not judge other people and not get mad at them, get angry at them, because every time you get mad and angry, you should look inside, look in yourself. Why am I angry? Why am I mad at this person? Is it because they said something I disagree with? Well, that's not really that big a deal, is it? So is it worth getting your blood pressure up? Is it worth getting agitated about? Because as I said before, when I'm agitated, when I'm anxious, when I'm angry, I make bad decisions. Decisions that come back and I regret whatever behavior I did. So, why would you want to continue to act in ways that in the future you tend to regret? And make better decisions. And behave in a different way, and you will find that the universe reflects it back to you. You find that different things make you feel better about yourself and about others. It's a new way of being, and our country needs to act a little bit differently, because we're too polarized now. We're upset about the chaos in the Congress. We're upset about, the Supreme Court decisions, or maybe we're happy with them, but we're upset that other people are unhappy with them. So, what if we just learn to calm down? And as I said, one of the techniques that I was taught was to deep breathing. Deep breathing. There's one way where I just inhale and exhale. And if I do it once, it may or may not work. But if I keep at it, if I do it 2-3 times, however long it takes, until I'm restored to a calm state. And this is a gift I give to myself. By restoring my serenity, I'm able to be a better person, behave better, so that I'm better towards others and towards myself. So this is one way, one technique. And you've often heard, people have probably told you about this, is the counting method of breathing. It's like inhale to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out for 4, 2, 3. It's another way of doing the same type of thing. And you can do it once, twice, 3 times, however long it takes you to calm yourself down. We need to calm down as a country, as individuals. And the other thing that I have learned is that positive affirmations. Now, that's just like Rick was saying earlier. I dealt with a lot of things in my life by having contempt prior to investigation, which means like I didn't think it was going to work for me. I didn't think that this was what I needed, so I would just dismiss it. I would hold it in my head for maybe a nanosecond before just saying, nah, not for me. Well, now I think about things and I say, well, why don't I try it? And positive affirmations are one of the things that I've tried. And actually, it seems to work for me. And no one was more surprised than I was. Positive affirmations? Come on. What are you trying to do? Brainwash yourself? Yeah, in a way. Because if you think positive thoughts, you feel positively about your life, about other people, and it's a good way of making yourself be calm, to calm yourself down. So there's one affirmation that I was taught, and I'm going to read this because I think I have it memorized, but I don't want to get it wrong. As the storms of life swirl around me, I can remain centered, calm, safe, and secure. Now, if I say that to myself once, twice, 3 times, it doesn't matter how many times it takes until I feel it. And this is the thing. You've got to feel it. And if you don't feel it, I call it mailing it in. You're not really doing the work. You're not really doing what you're set out to do, which is to calm yourself down. Deep breathing, positive affirmations. These are the types of things that help me when I get agitated, when I have thoughts of anxiety. I know if I can become aware that I'm agitated, sometimes that's the hard part. But if I can't, I can use one of these tools to calm down. And man, it's better for me to be calm. It's just a better way of living for me. And I'm suggesting it might work for you. Now, one of the things that I learned, one of the things that I did in my recovery, I tried various recovery programs, and one of the ones that worked for me was yoga in the 12 steps. And there was a yoga teacher that I found to be very influential in my recovery because he talked about ancient wisdom in a way that was relevant to modern life. And so I want to share a little video of him. It's actually 2 videos because we had a technical difficulty towards the end of the first one. You'll probably see that there's a glitch. He freezes, but we'll move on to the second one as soon as possible. So if my producer can tee up the first of the yamas and niyamas with Eade.
Welcome to this segment of the show, and I wanted to introduce Eade, who's an Ananda yoga teacher and therapist. And I've known Eade for a few years now, and the subject that I wanted to come up to talk about now is the freedom. Oh my goodness, it's the title of the book I wrote. And we're going to talk about how the yamas and niyamas can help you achieve the freeing sense that we're trying to achieve when we calm ourselves down. Because it's a sense of freedom, of non-attachment, but of connection as well. And so I wanted to ask you, can you explain just in general terms what the yamas and niyamas are and how they can provide benefit? And we'll go into more detail in later shows about the specific ones. But in general, I don't think it's a common knowledge what the yamas and niyamas are. You can correct me if you're wrong, but in my experience, it doesn't come up in coffee table conversations very often. So if you can take it away, I'm going to hand it off to you. And,
Sure.
All right.
Well, Jim, I'm laughing in part because it depends on whose coffee table you're around, whether those the yamas and niyamas come up. Around many of the coffee tables that I spend my time at, it's not an uncommon topic, but nonetheless, let's sort of talk about the yamas and niyamas, and it helps to pull away a little bit from any of the specifics and understand what they are, where they fit in, why they even exist. And one big beginning point is what are called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Patanjali is an ancient sage. He was a real person. And he basically wrote a textbook on the practice of yoga. And he begins that textbook, and they're called the Yoga Sutras. Sutra, by the way, is a Sanskrit word, and it has an English connection in the word suture. And that is to say that the word suture is to sew up a wound. And the sutras in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are small threads of knowledge, of teaching that bring things together. The teaching themselves are very short, and it helps to understand where the yamas and niyamas fit into the Yoga Sutras, because they are only a small part of the Yoga Sutras themselves, but they are the essence of yoga. It helps to begin at the very beginning, and I don't want to become overly philosophical about the yamas, niyamas, because it's very easy to get into a very mental place with this. And I want to emphasize that everything about yoga, while it can be a mindful practice in a very positive way, that the path of yoga is incredibly and essentially practical. And by that, what I mean is that there's nothing that is simply an idea about yoga. Patanjali begins the Yoga Sutras with a very simple teaching. The very first Yoga Sutra is this: and now we come to the practice of yoga. You'll hear the translations vary a little bit, but that's essentially what it is. And now we come to the practice of yoga. What is contained in that word now is something that came before, something that will happen after, and that is what is the practice of yoga. The thing that came before is the sense of separation from our source, separation from the divine, separation from God, if that's a word that works for you. But however you view that divine source, there is this feeling that I'm not there, and I don't like it. And there is this feeling that I want to be in a complete state of freedom, which is, in yoga terms, union with this divine, union with our source. One could even say reunion, but nonetheless, the first condition, it has a name, by the way, I'll say it in Sanskrit, Sankhya, and the potential that we possess is called Vedanta. Sankhya is that sense of separation. Vedanta is a sense of complete union. And the path of yoga is everything that brings those two together. Yoga literally means union, or that coming together. The sutras are simply the little threads of teachings that tie these two together, hold everything in place. And Patanjali goes on in the second Yoga Sutra to lay out exactly what yoga does. He puts it like this. He says, yoga calms the waves of feeling. Yoga calms the waves of likes and dislikes in the mind and the heart. Again, I could say it in terms of Sanskrit. It doesn't really matter, but for some of you who are watching, you might have heard it before. Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirod. And basically, yoga calms these alternating waves of I like this, I don't like that. I'm happy now, I'm not happy now. I'm suffering now, I want to be I want to be happy again. And so this always going back and forth. It's very much like waves on the ocean. But yoga is a way that we calm those waves. And then Patanjali brings it all together and says, if you can practice yoga perfectly, you will abide in your true nature. And so in those three teachings, Patanjali sums up everything. And yet he then goes on to say, if you can't do that, here's what you're going to find along the way. And he goes on to explain the challenges that we face. And it's all very, it's not terribly complicated. It's things that we all recognize. For example, the idea about information that we get in our lives. Is it true or is it not true? What's the nature of true information? And essentially, it's that which we can experience. The nature of misinformation is manifold. We get lots of different ways. People lie to us. People twist the truth. We misunderstand what's going on. So these are all ways that we can misunderstand. But essentially, again, Patanjali brings us back eventually to what is called the 8 limbs of yoga. The Sanskrit word is Ashtanga yoga, and it literally means 8 limbs. These 8 limbs are the 8 stages that every being will move through towards freedom. The word for freedom in yoga is called self with a capital S realization, where we completely realize who we are. And that is to say that we are not what we appear, that the body I am in is temporary, that the world around me is not permanent, that everything changes. We're living in an age when, by the way, a lot of this is sort of understood. I think a lot of people have heard the simple teaching that change is the only thing that is inevitable on this planet. Everything changes, and it's true. It's just that things are moving just slowly enough that we get caught up in the permanence of the material world, and it takes a couple of things to break us free of that basic delusion. And the things that we are predictably consumed with are going to be things that have to do with, wealth, money, and are going to have to do with the body I'm in. Am I feeling well or not well? There's going to be attractions, sensual attractions. We have 5 senses, and they are actually a flow of divine energy moving through us, and they allow us to perceive the material world. The challenge we face is to not be convinced by what the senses perceive, because we are oftentimes led astray. When it comes to these 8 limbs of yoga that Patanjali describes, he talks about stages that are going to be true for every soul, eventually moving through these stages of self-realization. And they begin with the yamas and niyamas, but it's helpful to understand that the yamas and niyamas are just the beginning, because before we can begin to expect to be fully self-realized, there's a lot of words for that, by the way. Different traditions use different words, but everybody has some version of the yamas and niyamas. All 3 Abrahamic traditions, all 3 Abrahamic religions go back to Moses and the 10 Commandments. And these yamas and niyamas.
I apologize for the technical difficulties there. I blame my producer. And Yudhishthira, maybe you can start off where you left off.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Okay.
what I had was last saying was that the yamas and niyamas fall within a spectrum of stages of development that any soul will go through. And I say soul in particular because it is not the body that just goes through these stages. It's the consciousness, the Sanskrit word is Atman, the soul within the body who goes through these experiences. And in the world of yoga, that involves karma and reincarnation. But the stages of yoga are ones that anyone will go through. And that is to say that you can look at the life of any great saint or sage or prophet, and you can see these same stages of self-realization until they meet their final union with the divine. And the yamas and niyamas simply begin with these 5 things that we do not want to do in order to learn how to behave well in the world. And it then goes on to 5 things that we do want to do. And this is an order that we can actually begin to make spiritual progress. So the yamas are the 5 don'ts. And they are, as I say, 5 in number, but their overall role, the yamas and niyamas, is to teach us how to behave. You can see over my shoulder there. I guess it's over that way. No, I can't. There. That way. You'll see my picture of my guru, Paramahansa Yogananda. And so everything I know in the world of spirit is somehow channeled through him. So some things I have learned to experience directly. And the yamas and niyamas have been a big part of how I have made spiritual progress within this lifetime. In fact, I would say that anyone who wants to make spiritual progress will follow these same basic pathways. I will give you a simple example and to say that at a particular time in my life, I came to a turning point and I had a realization. I'd never studied any yoga, didn't know anything about the yamas, niyamas, but I had this realization, a moment of divine grace that came into my life. And the first realization I came to a number of them pretty quickly, but the first one was that I had been lying to everyone around me. And that the first thing I was going to correct was to no longer lie. And from that point, nearly 35 or 40 years ago now, I have made the conscious choice to tell the truth, no matter how inconvenient it might be. And that matter of being truthful is stated in the yamas as the practice of satya, or non-lying. So the yamas are basically the things that we don't want to do. We'll get into more of them later on, one by one, but it helps to picture them in terms of a garden. That if you are planting a garden, there are a couple things you need to do. One is, as weeds appear, you need to pull them out. And that's what the yamas are. They're essentially weeding the garden of your own consciousness. The niyamas, on the other hand, are about planting what you want to be in the garden. So after pulling the weeds, you can then plant what you want to be there. And those are the plants that are going to grow and give you abundant fruit. And so we practice the yamas and niyamas consecutively. The last thing I think I want to finish with about the yamas, niyamas, and these 8 limbs of yoga is that it's tempting to look at these things in terms of a step, like you're going from one step to the other. And that isn't the way they work. They're much more like spokes on a wheel. As the center of the hub, in the case of the yamas and niyamas, the center of the hub would be how to behave in a way that leads to perfect happiness. That'd be the central hub of the wheel. And each of the spokes would be, and there would be 10 of them, would be one of the yamas and niyamas. The circumference of the wheel would lead you from any one yama to any other yama or niyama along the way. And that's the way it is with yamas and niyamas, that they interconnect. You cannot practice one without practicing others. And so as we go through the yamas and niyamas in future segments like this, we'll talk about the ways in which these things connect, but we'll focus on them one by one. So just to list the yamas in order, and I'll stop there for today. The yamas, or the things that we don't want to do, are 5 in number. And I'll say them in their English words: non-violence or non-harming. The second, I mentioned it earlier, non-lying. Four. And so, again, just to recap, we have non-violence or non-harming, non-lying, non-stealing, non-sensuality, and non-hoarding or non-greed. Different words, different teachers, but in general, that's the idea. So those are the 5 yamas, and we'll pick up with ahimsa on the next one, on the next segment. And so I think that will cover it for today.
Thank you so much, Yudhishthira. I learned a great deal about the role of the yamas and niyamas in the yoga practice in general. So I really appreciate it. And we will have this segment on future shows. And I think if you will continue to instruct me and our viewers on this, we would be grateful. So,
It'll be my pleasure, Jim.
okay.
Blessings.
Thanks very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Well, welcome back to Calm Down with James Eade. Yudhishthira is a yoga teacher, an instructor, and he was gracious enough to tell me a little bit about the yamas and niyamas. Of course, I understood the yamas and niyamas. I thought, well, the yamas are the things you do, and the niyamas were the things you don't do. I had it exactly backwards. So that's one of the things that the more I learn, the more I realize sometimes my thinking is exactly backwards. And one of the things that I've learned is not to judge myself so harshly. We talked about not judging others, but it's also important to not judge yourself so harshly, because we all have internal critics where we put ourselves down, where we say to ourselves, you're not good enough, you're not worthy of this good thing that could have happened. This is a path that leads down the slippery slope to addiction, because we end up self-medicating in order to avoid those feelings. But we can feel feelings. It's okay. What we have to remember is that feelings are impermanent. They pass. So unlike myself, when I was in the throes of my addiction, and I did kneel to the tyrant addiction, I have been able to rise up, hold my head high and look people in the eye. And one of the reasons I can do that is because I'm not judging myself so harshly. And I give myself a break. I cut myself some slack. And this is why I treat other people, and I tell them myself to show myself as much compassion as I try to show other people. And some days are better than others. I'm not going to say I'm perfect at this because I'm far from it. But I have made progress. I have made a great deal of progress in the 8+ years of my recovery. And one of the things I liked about the yoga practice, and Yudhishthira said it, it calms the waves of emotions, because emotions are like waves, and they feel like they can overtake you, overcome you. And one of the things about emotions is that they come and then they go, and we do not have to respond. In the past, I was like one of Pavlov's dogs. I get a stimulus and I would have a response. Stimulus response. I might have as well been drooling. But, now I can get that stimulus because you can't really always avoid the stimulus. I can get that stimulus, but I can pause before I react. And I want to respond rather than react because my previous reactions were not always the best. They were more punitive. I would use harsh language. I would use punishing language. And now I try to avoid that before I get the stimulus and I can pause before I say something. I think of it as there's neural networks that were in our brains, and this is what stimulus and reaction, stimulus and reaction. Well, you can pick the needle up off that old groove and put it on a new one. And when you can put that new one in, at first, it's scratchy. It doesn't play beautiful music. It feels uncomfortable. But if you do it often enough, you're going to get a new groove. And that new groove, for me anyways, plays a more beautiful song than any I had heard before. And my behavior changes. I don't use the sharp language. I used to talk about, people brush their teeth. Well, I file my tongue so it's as sharp as possible. Well, no, not anymore. I don't have to hurt people with my words. And this is a gift that I've given to myself by hard work because I have to do this on a daily basis. I need constant reminders. There's a constant reminder here. It says, look at the camera. I forget. Everybody forgets. My superpower might be forgetting because I know these things, but I can't do them 24 hours a day and every day. But I can do them more often, more frequently. And the times where my lapses in judgment are shorter, less frequent. And this is what we call progress. And nobody is expecting perfection. And if you are expecting perfection, being a perfectionist is another sign of addiction. You've got to be able to be calm, cool, and collected, even about your own character defects, what you perceive to be what's wrong with you. And you try to be perfect because you don't want to ever fail. Failure is a part of life. We're going to succeed and fail. Even when I was still drinking, I wrote Chess for Dummies. It's one of the best-selling chess books of all time. And it might be the best-selling chess book of all time. I don't have the numbers to prove it, but it's one of them. That's for sure. And, I was able to be very competent and let's say successful. I wore a suit and tie to work every day. I drove a nice car. I lived in Pacific Heights in San Francisco. And, if everybody looking outside, looking in, thought that guy's got it made. Well, inside looking out, things weren't so rosy. And I did self-medicate, mostly with beer and wine. But at some point it got worse. And this is a slow slide into addiction. I didn't notice it at the time. But that's why I wrote the book Freedom. I recommend that you go to it. Go to Amazon, go wherever you get books that you like to go to. Go and get this, because I think it's something that I want to get in front of medical professionals. I want to get in front of therapists. I want to get it to consultants, people that are trying to help people help themselves, because there's more than one way to skin this cat. There is no one size fits all solution. You got to find the one that works for you. And when you find that one, keep doing it. And the main thing that I have found in all the programs that I've been involved in is a sense of community. Because you can say 1,000 words to someone who hasn't experienced what you've experienced, and they won't understand what you're talking about. But you can say 12 words to someone who has, and they're starting to nod their heads in understanding. And this sense of community goes a long way towards healing what was broken, because part of my disease was a disease of isolation. I thought I didn't need people. I thought I lived my life by a Beatles song. I never needed help in any way. But I did. I just didn't know it. I was living a lie to myself. It was part of a delusion that I didn't need others. Well, I never cut my own hair or filled in my own cavities. I never did this. I couldn't do things myself. I wasn't self-sufficient. Who was I kidding? So, I did need other people, and I still do. And now I found that I need them for support. I need them to say, I'm really anxious about this or that. And they'll remind me of a tool that they use for themselves. to calm themselves down. And how do you calm yourself down? It's like, oh, man, that was the $64 million question for me because I was anxious all the time. Yet I managed to do it. So I'm more calm more often than I ever was before. And how do you calm yourself down is up to you. What works for you may not work for me. What works for me may not work for you. So it's finding your own way, and it's a lot of trial and error. So if you try something and it doesn't work, don't give up. Keep trying. You will find something. You will find a community. You will find something that works for you, where you find peace and serenity that you didn't think was possible. These are the types of things that I have found for myself, and I've seen it in many, many other people. People who used to, push shopping carts and didn't have shoes, and they're now productive citizens. They're doing good work in many ways, positive influence on a lot of people's lives. You can turn it around. It doesn't matter how far down you've gone. Your experience can help someone else. When you share your experience, you're making yourself vulnerable. Sure, vulnerability is not comfortable. Of course not. But it can be so helpful to someone else because they think they're in it by themselves. They think that they're the only ones that have experienced these feelings. They think they're the only ones that have suffered, that have told themselves, I'm never going to do this again, only to find by 5 o'clock and that day they're doing it again. It's just, this kind of leads to hopeless demoralization. And, you don't think you can recover, but you can. People do. I've seen it too many times to deny it. It's happened to me. It's happened to people that I know. And it can happen to you. So the main thing I want you to take away from Calm Down is that you're worth recovery. You're worth the things that happen to you that are positive. Your sense of self-worth will go up the more you do good works. The more you help other people, you will feel better about yourself. And then you will not have the need to self-medicate. You will not need to ingest foreign substances to change the way you feel. There's no reason to change the way you feel because you feel fine. And if you don't feel fine, it's just for a passing moment or two. It'll go away. Feelings come and they go. So you do not have to react to them the way I used to react to them by trying to change the way I felt. And that's okay now to accept it. Just accept the way I feel, even if it's a little uncomfortable. As I said before, you pick a groove up, you move it to another groove, you build a new neural network. It's not comfortable at first. It's scratchy. It's not the kind of thing that you would do by choice unless this groove was not working. Picking it up and moving it over and doing the work and doing it again and again and again until it's a new groove and it's beautiful. That's what it takes. It takes a little bit of time. But this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not who gets there fastest. It's getting there. And it's on your timetable, no one else's. No one can tell you need X number of days or you need to go to this period of time to do this. If it works for you, fine. Take suggestions. There's nothing wrong with taking suggestions. I have learned to take suggestions. And it's like, try it. Who knows? I've shed this contempt prior to investigation that used to be part of the rule of my life. I lived decades that way. When someone would suggest something, I'd go, it's not for me. But now that I tried things that I didn't think would work for me, one of them is yoga. I thought, yoga? Oh my goodness. What's the point of yoga? Yes, you'd be more flexible. You do some stretching. Yeah. Well, Pilates would be good for me. I don't do Pilates. Why would I do yoga? Well, women in Lululemon, maybe that would be nice. But no, it's not about that. It's about changing your energy. It's about reinvigorating your energy. It's about moving the energy around in your body. And when you learn you can control this energy, you realize that not only can the mind calm the body, but the body can calm the mind. And you learn so many new tools, ways to calm yourself, to make yourself feel safe, secure, and just peaceful. Now, when people are talking about, wars and doing damage to other people and stuff like that, I can change my environment. I don't have to listen to it. This is something that I do that's for me, because I know if I get sucked into listening to that kind of stuff, I'm going to get worked up. And if I get worked up, I'm going to get angry. And then if I'm angry, I might do something stupid. But I have the ability to calm myself down. Sometimes it means changing the channel. Sometimes it means turning the set off. Sometimes it means deep breathing. Sometimes it means doing the 4x4x4. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Rest for 4 seconds. Hold it for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. And you can do it from 4 to 6 to 8. There's a whole theory of people that are smarter than I am that tell you to do this because it is a calming way. And the other thing that I wanted to mention before we close the show is meditation. I used to meditate when I was younger, and I thought, okay, they say, meditate, and one of those things, yeah, I'm sure it's good for me. But I looked back and I thought, yeah, I did like it when I was younger. I did like meditation. So I decided that I would try it. Well, I had monkey mind. I could not do it. And I thought, oh, boy. So I went to a person who was going to teach me how to meditate. Well, she taught me a lot more than that. And we talked about meditation for, several weeks. And then, meditation doesn't come up anymore. And I still talk to her. So it's, these are the types of things that can happen if you try. And meditation is one of the tools that I use now to make myself feel peaceful, calm, and content. And it really helps me to calm down. Well, that's our show for today. Calm Down with James Eade. It's wrapping up. And I want to hand the show off to Divya Lovewise. She's going to take us out. And in a way that I probably couldn't do. She's really good at it. I really like her. She's the person that taught me how to meditate. So thank you for tuning in and enjoy.
Welcome to the final segment of Calm Down. And I want to introduce to you, my loyal listeners and viewers, Divya Lovewise, that wise yogi. And I would like you, at the end of every show, I'm a little bit agitated and worked up and all that kind of stuff. And I was wondering if there's something that you could do to calm me down. Could you just say goodbye to us in any way that you see fit?
Sure, I would love to.
I will take off and let you do that. Thanks again.
Okay. Well, bring yourself into a comfortable seated position, feeling your feet on the floor and letting your hands rest in your lap. Palms up or palms down is a great way to start bringing yourself back into center and focus with your own divine energy and letting go of anything that might have wanted to stick to us throughout the day that may be energy we don't want to carry throughout the day. So having this basic position, feeling grounded, even closing your eyes and taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And one of the ways we can bring ourselves back to center is observing with our senses what we can feel, the temperature of the air in the room, observing any sounds that you hear. Noticing any smells in the air. And then bring your awareness to your breath. As though you're watching it from the inside out. Watching the inhale wash into the body. And watching the exhale wash out of the body. just like the waves of the ocean as they wash onto the shore. And if you find your mind still wandering, you can even place one hand on your lower belly and one hand on your heart so that you can feel with your hands this breath washing in and washing out. And with your mind's eye, visualize this inhalation and exhalation as an internal shower, clearing away your energy so that it's refreshed, it's rejuvenated, and it's restored. Releasing your hands into your lap, just give yourself a few seconds of pause in this return to peace, enjoying it. When you are ready, you can open your eyes, wiggling your fingers and your toes, feeling grounded in your body, grounded in the best part of yourself, and you can go out into the world and carry that best part in the forefront of your mind and your heart.